right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you guys for joining. It's the training camp roundtable. We're a week out maybe at this point from training camps kicking off. A few teams start next week before everything gets rolling the week after. So this is the PFF discussion and the PFF angle towards what we're going to look at training camp. We got position battles, quarterback discussions on all 32 teams here. So let's break it down though. I'm going to start it off. The Bills. We did a little bit about the Bills earlier this year, this offseason as well, about Josh Allen and what they've done to kind of construct about the offense around him and what they've done this offseason to give Josh Allen these pass-catching weapons and things to kind of let him succeed in year two. Is there something you liked about the Bills going forward with Josh Allen, though, Steve? That's kind of where I wanted to start.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they added John Brown, they added Cole Beasley, so they have different style receivers, deep threat, slot receiver, but, you know, Allen's got he's got a lot of improving to do as far as just what I like to call the easy-looking stuff, Bruce. There's nothing easy about playing quarterback, but the easy-ish stuff. Josh Allen certainly has the highlight reel plays, but I just want to see him make a first read, throw the ball accurately. You know, he's got to be able to do the stuff that the best quarterbacks do in their sleep. He needs to just get better at some of the basic stuff, and a guy like Cole Beasley should be able to help that, right? Just a guy that can get open.
And that's what I was going to say. That's why I love what the Bills did in the offseason, because I'm a huge fan of Sean McDermott. You know, I think he does a great job. So defensively, they're going to be fine. And I think for Josh Allen still being young in his career, Cole Beasley is going to be the best addition, because he's going to be your third down guy. He's going to be that security blanket that hopefully this offseason they've been working together and Allen can get a feel of, you know what, it doesn't have to be that rocket launcher downfield. Mm-hmm. Let me go through my progressions. Like you're talking about, get through your reads. I want to see him get to that next step where you don't have to do everything. Look, I think the defense is going to be solid, where just execute the offense and your big plays will come. I mean, he's naturally athletic and gifted enough. I mean, the dude's a freak as far as arm talent and being athletic. Those big plays will come. So I just, like you said, I want to see him just kind of get through his progressions more. There's a few clips we watched, I think a few weeks ago, that they're backed up and he's trying to force it downfield where he has a completion to the check down right over the ball. Take those little things but I think, you know, there's a lot of upside for the Bills in that offense with those additions.
Has the high-end plays, cut down on some of the mistakes, takes more of the easy stuff.
What gets the most easier as you go into your second year as a starter? What do you learn most?
Well, I think just like that speed of the game. You know, I feel like in college, when you get pressure, you got one guy you have to make miss. And in the NFL, that pocket just collapses like a vacuum. You know, it's just whoom. And I think, you know, you start to get used to that. And I think with Josh Allen going into year two, he'll get comfortable in a sense of it's not going to feel comfortable in this pocket right now, but sometimes I got to stand in there and get through my progressions and get that first down with my arm. And that's what I'm anxious to see some of these young quarterbacks. Talk about like just Baker Mayfield. That's what separated him, is he was executing from the pocket. The dude is just, you know, a surgeon, being able to have that poise and composure. And so I think with Josh Allen, just going into year two, is the knowledge of the offense he's going to be better at, you know, the weapons around him, getting that year, you know, your rookie season just drags on. You get no off time at all. And I think now, going into year two, you get a little sense of sit back, take a deep breath, go over what you've learned rookie year, and then move forward. So I think just that knowledge of the offense and just being comfortable where he's at in his career, I think that'll help going into year two.
What'll also help is the improvements to the offensive line. So Renner, this is where you shine. This is your moment. Come on, you've loved a couple of the additions.
Well, I mean, it's a completely new offensive line. Like 4 different starters from a year ago, and with where they ended up a year ago, it has to be better, you know, with 4 new starters. So I do think that's a big thing, because you can't understate. You see all the young quarterbacks, rookies, second year, that have had success. Carson Wentz, Baker Mayfield, those guys right out the gate, they had good offensive lines. I mean, that helps a lot in terms of just making you more comfortable. If you're uncomfortable back there consistently, it doesn't matter. Even when you're not getting pressured, it's going to show on tape. So I do think that's a big thing. That's going to go a long way. And really, there's no excuse with what they've done around him this year. If it doesn't turn on this year, that to me will be a big red flag. I'm not sure it's going to the switch is ever going to flip if it's not with all the talent they've added.
All right, I agree. obviously moving forward. But 2 points there to bring up. You talk about second-year quarterback and an offensive line being in a terrible situation. That jumps immediately to the Dolphins to stay in the AFC East here. Josh Rosen going to compete with Ryan Fitzpatrick for the starting gig. Obviously had a pretty rough situation with the Arizona offensive line, and now he moves on. That was well documented this offseason. Steve, you wrote about his highs and lows and the volatile play in college. We saw the same thing in year one, correct? That we saw at UCLA. And what do you think he can legitimately beat Ryan Fitzpatrick out for the starting gig, and when do you think that would happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think he could beat him out. I mean, I think Fitzpatrick right now is probably a better quarterback. The Dolphins, there's no benefit to having Ryan Fitzpatrick play. I mean, I think all 32 teams, I know it's training camp, they're optimistic, we're all trying to win here, but the Dolphins should truly be in year 3, year 4 mode. We're building for the future. They have to see what they have in Josh Rosen. And then, unfortunately for Josh, he could be in the situation where another team might move on from him after the next year. And that's okay. I mean, the Dolphins have to, I think they treat it like a business, and their business needs to find a quarterback. And Josh Rosen's the next guy that they try to figure out. Is he the guy? I don't think he changed much in Arizona from what he was at UCLA. The highs are there, the intermediate throwing, anticipation, looks the part, looks like an NFL quarterback. Still struggles with a little bit with decision making, and he doesn't have that outside the pocket magic I think that some of the other quarterbacks that came out of his class had. So let's see if he can improve upon that. Let's see if he's the guy for the Dolphins, and then they're probably picking in the top 5 or top 10 next year and looking at another quarterback. I think that's just the reality of the situation in Miami.
Traded again.
And he might. Like, how many guys do you think could have won in the Arizona situation with not phenomenal receivers and a bad offensive line?
Not many, but I think when we start to discuss Arizona, we're going to say, okay, you have a different offense. It's Cliff Kingsbury. You have a Kyler Murray who's more likely to deal with poor offensive line play, and then you change the system and make it a little bit more conducive to quick passing and mitigating some of the O-line disaster. So that's why I say I don't think Rosen changed as a player last year. He was the same guy we saw at UCLA, just in a terrible situation and in a higher league. Mm-hmm. So he's the same guy, same evaluation that we had a couple years ago, a first-round caliber quarterback whose highs could be Eli Manning-ish. You could have some of those great seasons, but the majority of Eli Manning's career, he's been a bottom half of the NFL type of quarterback. I think that's what Josh Rosen is. You just get some peak seasons in there that could be really good.
And it's just hard for me, though, too, because if you're in the Dolphins locker room right now, it's hard for you as a player to go into a season and be like, we're just rebuilding, And so the guys sense who the leader is and who the quarterback is. So I know they want to play Rosen, and they should.
Yep.
But that's why Fitzmagic, he brings that to teams though. He's a locker room guy. The guys love playing with him, being around him. I think he brings that good energy. He's smart, and he's going to execute the offense. So I think it's just really tough because it doesn't seem like coming out of Miami right now, they're all like, yeah, Rosen's our guy, or it's a true competition. I feel like it's hard. I feel like it's, Fitzpatrick's team right now where the guys get a sense, dude, he's a great teammate. He gives us a chance to win. So I feel like it's going to take a few weeks into the season to see how it goes before we see Rosen.
But you know what you're going to get with Fitzpatrick.
Right.
His highs were he was unbelievable last year.
Right.
I also think if he continued to play the whole season, at some point,
the wheels fall off. Yeah.
The Fitzmagic coaster comes back down to reality. You know what you have in him. I don't think Miami should be starting him. You have to figure out what you have in Rosen, and Fitz is the backup if there's an injury situation.
Is it a bad idea to have him there in general? Talking about to have Fitzpatrick, is it a bad idea just from this standpoint? That obviously Rosen's your guy, right? You still have him on a rookie deal. You want to see if he can be your guy. Right. But fans are always going to want a little Fitzmagic. And so anytime you have some struggle with Rosen, they're going to be, let's get Fitzpatrick in the game. But again, you know who he is. Is it a bad idea?
I don't think so. I mean, I've never played the position. I'm not sitting there. But my thought is, if you treat it like a business decision, you just say, listen, if Josh Rosen can't handle a little bit of heat or a little bit of fans asking for Fitzmagic, then he's not the guy anyway. Yep. You want your best quarterback to be looking for the competition, beating out the competition, and then showing that he's the guy. So I think it's a good thing for him.
And that's possibly, I don't think it's bad that he's there because they need something. I mean, Miami needs something. They need a few quarterbacks because they have to see where they're going in the future. But I also think that's why we're going to see Fitzmagic early in the season, and then we'll see Rosen kind of when, the Dolphins in general, their team, how many games are they going to win? Do they have the pieces around them? Then I think that takes some pressure off Rosen. Mm-hmm. Where if Rosen goes in and starts initially, and it doesn't go well, everyone's like, dude, we got a veteran here. Why don't put him in? And I think that's where you start to feel the pressure a little bit.
I want to go back to assessing Josh Rosen, because in year one with the Arizona Cardinals, bad situation, poor offensive line, not great wide receivers. He goes to Miami, a bottom 3 offensive line with, you maybe even argue, worse wide receivers in Arizona. Isolating the quarterback position and isolating performance, how hard is it to evaluate quarterback performance when you are in those situations with bad offensive lines, bad receivers, and maybe not a great offense overall?
So I think if you only have 1 year of information on Josh Rosen, it's a little difficult. But we don't. We have 3 years of his college information. We have every single play from his college career graded. And the issue I had with him at UCLA is from his freshman to his junior year, he never really had an elite season. We saw top-end play from Sam Darnold, from Baker Mayfield. Even Josh Allen, who was lower on our draft board, his best season was better than Josh Rosen. Now, the body of Josh Rosen's work was better than Josh Allen's, but Josh Allen's peak was even higher. So Josh Rosen never dominated. And we're talking about a guy from his first ever start as a true freshman at UCLA, looked like an NFL quarterback. But he was a roller coaster ride even at UCLA, game to game. He would torch Virginia and then struggle against UNLV. That's how his career started, and it didn't change much throughout that time. So we have information about him in college, and we know what his skill set is, and the rest of his supporting cast maybe brought him down a little bit last year, but I think he's still the same guy. And that's a guy that if you give him great wide receivers and great O-line play, he can make some NFL throws and do some really good things, but you really have to get that great supporting cast.
And that's what, like, we were talking earlier about, like, a Cam Newton or these guys, like, we'll talk about Lamar Jackson. And I think Josh Rosen, man, if things are right around him, I mean, he's accurate, he's got enough arm, he's got good footwork, like, he can deliver from the pocket and make good throws, but like you said earlier, he's not going to extend plays or make plays outside the pocket. Things around him have to be right. And I think that's a concern in Miami because do they have all the pieces around him? But as far as a passer, I think he's a good pure passer.
I just think he's the guy that ultimately his good stuff looks so good that it just overrates his overall ability because at PFF we're all about how often.
Gosh, I wish that's how I was. Like, your good stuff
you were
looks
overrated
really
enough.
good.
You stuck around for 11 years. Isn't that good enough?
Well, I'm still trying to change my PFF grade. I don't think it's good enough.
We'll go back to those 09 games.
I need to go through some of those throws.
Just watch enough games with Austin and the anticipatory factor of us waiting for the explosion from you guys.
It's true.
A guy needs no introduction. I don't even think we really need to talk about him, though. We're going to stay the AFC East. Tom Brady, we could say whatever we wanted to. It's all good. The dude's elite. But let's change it up. Let's go to the defense. The top-graded cornerback last year was in New England. I don't think that he got as much publicity all season long as we were giving him. I think we were ahead of the game in terms of that, in terms of giving him, and he earned that top-graded spot. Stephon Gilmore, though, who else is around him in that secondary? They had J.C. Jackson that kind of came out of nowhere. And just open it up here to whoever wants to talk a little bit about that secondary for New England. And is it the best that Belichick's had? Do we have question marks?
Football? Is there a better secondary in football than Chung, McCourty?
Yeah, it's I don't know. On paper, it's not because nobody's looking at Jason McCourty and saying he's great or J.C. Jackson, he's great, but they both played really well last year, and you do have Gilmore as that top guy. And we are at a point in the NFL where there's not a whole lot of. There's no Darrelle Revis. There's an aging Richard Sherman, but there's no clear top corner. That's why I think Gilmore was our top-graded guy last season. But Devin McCourty, just a good, solid free safety. Stephon Gilmore, the best man coverage corner. And J.C. Jackson and Devin McCourty and Patrick Chung, guys that you just kind of play matchups with, and that's what New England does well. They get the most out of those guys on the back end.
Well, I think you got to look at too. Bill Belichick now is going to have more of a handle on the defense, and they go through. Greg Schiano comes in, then he, retires, whatever he does. So I just think there's some, flux there as far as that, but it's just so impressive to me of what Bill Belichick has done and what they continue to do, because you see he loses coaches, loses players, but is still always stable in, the standard's the standard in New England. They don't flinch, they keep moving forward. So that's what's impressive when I just look at them as a whole. You could say, well, who's calling the defense? Belichick, how's he going to do that? And then worry about the team. But the guy finds a way, and then watch next year, in a couple years, we'll see a new shiny defense coordinator getting, another interview for a head coaching job. So it's just impressive to see what they do. And I'm interested to see, though, like how Belichick does and how much hands-on he has this year on that defense.
It will be interesting to watch them this year because they obviously lost, defense coordinators back-to-back years, but from a personnel standpoint, they lost one of the highest paid free agents in the NFL, Trey Flowers. Offensively, highest paid offensive free agent, Trent Brown. Rob Gradkowski, Hall of Fame tight end. You lose 3 guys to that roster, literally, and don't replace them with any sort of free agents. But and if they go, 13-3 again, do the players even matter at this point? Is it just like the
just
machine?
Last year, we were saying the same thing, right? They lost Brandon Cooks, didn't really replace him at wide receiver until they signed Josh Gordon for a little bit, and they lost Nate Solder. That's for the second year in a row. They've lost the highest paid tackle in history. They lost Dion Lewis a year ago at this time. They lost Malcolm Butler. We were talking about all the players that they lost last year, and then they won it again.
And then is it a product of what Belichick is doing, or is it what everyone else in that division isn't doing? You know what I mean? Like, for so many years, you look at the Dolphins, Bills, and Jets. I mean, man, they've been just struggling to have some stability. So I'm not taking anything away from New England and Bill Belichick, but you look at the other pieces. That's why I think. I mean, I don't know. I kind of think the Bills might surprise some people.
This almost feels like the first time where there's been young weapons that now are year 2, year 3. And are they Bill Belichick? Are they Tom Brady yet? No, I think they're probably going to beat them again this year. But maybe next year, when that age starts to fall just a little bit, and I understand like just a touch. And these young guys are year 3. I think you may finally see a changing of the guard in the division.
Maybe 5 or 6 years. Maybe 5 or 6 years. I see that. Yeah.
I forget. This is.
I know it's our resident Brady guy. What about offensive line wise? I guess got to go to Renner if it's offensive line. How many offensive lines are better than the New England Patriots right now?
That's a tough one.
According to us, 5, by the way.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're right up there. I think Isaiah Wynn stepping in at left tackle. We loved him coming out of Georgia. Obviously missed his whole rookie season, but I'm not sure they missed a beat. I think Trent Brown was almost overrated. Like, he's a good left tackle, but I don't think he's highest paid. He wasn't anything special. It's more the pieces as a whole work with Brady's quick release. They get protected to some degree, and in the running game, they're just so incredibly well coached. They just execute their assignments consistently as better than any other team in the NFL. So the talent's still there. It's still a top 5 to 10 offensive line in the NFL, and you don't need to be number 1. If you're in that range, you're going to be able to run the ball at a high level and pass protect at a high level.
Adding Yannick Juiced and Yeldy Froholm in the draft, I feel like is huge. Bringing them in allows them to reload along the offensive line and make things a little bit easier for them to continue to find talent along the offensive line.
It allows Wynn to slide in just easily at left tackle without any sort of competition realistically as well, to give him that spot to be Brady's blindside protector. You move now, though. We're gonna switch out of the Patriots. We're gonna finish out the AFC East. It seems like there's a theme here with quarterbacks. It's year 2 guys that we might have been a little bit high on or a little bit volatile, so to speak. You got Sam Darnold. He was actually, if you just isolate the grades from the last 3 weeks of the season last year, the highest graded quarterback. And obviously there was some quarterbacks that may have sat out a game here or 2 in the tail end of the season that clinched the playoff berth. Right. But you have Darnold as the highest graded quarterback the last 3 weeks of the season. Is that I've picked up the speed of the game thing at the end of the year? And is that progression going forward for year 2? Or is that more the injuries of the season had taken its toll on defenses and he could just pick apart teams that might have been injury decimated or had already clinched a playoff berth and weren't playing their hardest? So I don't know where he goes from here, what we look for in Darnold in year 2.
I don't think the last 3 weeks means much when you say highest graded, but overall we did like Sam Darnold. Same thing we said with Josh Rosen. You have to defer back to information that you knew coming out and what you saw from his rookie season. I thought his rookie season was just okay. Youngest starter in the NFL, and he did a lot of the things you talked about, the outside the pocket magic and the stuff that he could do. That was there. I think if you do look at all a bunch of the starting quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, they all had 3 of the worst supporting casts in the entire NFL, from offensive line and wide receivers. So I think all of their development is going to hinge upon the development of everybody around them. And I don't think the Jets, I think Darnold can get better this year, but we might not see it a ton statistically because I don't love their receivers, don't love their offensive line. I think that's going to be the big issue with Darnold. I like him as a player, though.
And I think, too, I think last year what helped Darnold is, when you talk about his career, just like the other quarterbacks, it matched up to when he was at USC. He kind of starts off hot, sputters like in the middle of the year, and then finishes strong. But what I'd like to see, too, is what helped him last year is when he started off the year, he started good, and then when he dealt with that injury, he got to sit back and watch Josh McCown operate. It wasn't for a long time or anything like that, but enough to see how he handles a week, day-to-day schedule being the starter. So how does Josh McCown handle himself? How does he handle his teammates? How does he communicate? How is he in the locker room? What kind of study habits does he do? And I know he's picking that up off him while Sam Darnold was starting as well, but it's nothing like when you have that sense of urgency when you are the starter. So I think those weeks that Josh McCown took over, win or lose, that Darnold actually got to sit back and be like, you know what? I'm making this harder than it has to be. Because when I was a rookie, it happened to me. I started 11 games. And then when I got benched, Gruden benched my ass and threw me on the sideline for Tim Rattay. I got to sit back and watch Tim Rattay execute the plays Gruden was calling for me. And I was like, man, I was making that so much harder than it has to be. So I think Darnold learned some stuff from him, from McCown during that spot. And I also think going into year 2, Darnold does have that poise and composure. I think, and he's kind of like a point guard. Like, he can attack a line of scrimmage. He keeps his eyes downfield. Does a good job buying time. And I like the fact that he played linebacker in high school. You know, I think he has that tough guy mindset. So, and I'm more concerned with Jets overall is Adam Gase and how he handles the team. I feel like there's some instances in Miami and then New York of different personalities or superstar players you're dealing with, and now you have a Le'Veon Bell and Sam Darnold and these guys, you know, C.J. Mosley. Like, how do you handle those guys? And that's what I'm kind of interested in seeing. Greg Williams as a defense coordinator. You know, so you're going to have different personalities in New York, and how does that head coach manage them?
That's going to be interesting.
Steve kind of downplayed the last few games of the season, but I think it's actually really valuable in terms of his rookie year because I think you have to see it at some point at the rookie. I go back to Carson Wentz's rookie year. It wasn't great from start to finish, but you saw it for games, for 3 to 4 games. You saw that high level of play that then he, year 2, sort of sustained. So I think just to have seen it for multiple games is very, like, you, not to say it's going to be like that all in year 2, but it's very encouraging going forward where someone like Josh Rosen, you just never saw him. Like, there were no just multiple games in a row where you saw it. So I think that's a really big thing for a young quarterback to see that high level and sustain it for even a little bit like that.
Yeah, it's a good little confidence boost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To show, like, look, I got it done. Now how do I become more consistent throughout the course of the year?
Consistency, that will be key. He does have now probably one of the better check down receivers in Le'Veon Bell now out of the backfield for him moving forward.
What was before we move past the Jets, what was the work? Because they overpaid for a couple of guys. I mean, I guess you could make the case with Le'Veon Bell if they sat on their offer and got him at a reasonable price. They didn't go nuts with it. But they went a little nuts with the defensive moves. Mosley got a lot of money. What was the worst deal the Jets made this offseason?
I mean, Mosley's overpaid. It's just tough when they have so much cap space.
Yep.
And if it's not going to hurt you down the road, then is it that big of a deal? But I mean, Mosley's getting overpaid for a linebacker, for a less valuable position where he's a good, not great player. You know, he's definitely getting overpaid. It would have been Anthony Barr though if that deal went through. He would have been more overpaid because he was about to switch positions, become an edge defender for them before he ended up going.
They had all this cap space, and it's like, did they get that much better from where they were a season ago? Like, you can't really point to, you know, they just spent and didn't necessarily.
But I think too, you know, Sam Darnold's a little similar to Ben Roethlisberger. You know, so when I saw Le'Veon Bell sign with the Jets, I'm thinking, you know what? Le'Veon is going to like this as well because Le'Veon and Ben had a good relationship and a sense on the field of just making a play. Le'Veon wasn't always at the exact check down location, but Ben and him knew how to be on the same page. And I feel like with Sam Darnold and Le'Veon, they're going to have that same type of chemistry. It's going to be Sam Darnold kind of buying a little bit of time, about to get tackled, and boom, flip it to Le'Veon because Le'Veon's friendly. He knows where to be and gives him kind of a security blanket. So I think that'll be a nice little tandem.
They should have kept Josh McCown.
Yeah.
They should have kept him. I just think that he would have brought, from a personality standpoint, like, you got to mix. Le'Veon Bell and Sam Darnold cannot be any more opposite of dudes. You know what I mean? Like, from a personality. And McCown has a way of, he's respected by everyone in the locker room. He has a way of being that mentor. I thought you made a great point about him watching McCown when he was injured and then coming back in. But McCown's also the kind of dude that will come to the sideline, and it's not competitive with him.
Right.
He wants to make Darnold awesome.
He wants to help him out.
Genuinely. Yeah. You can tell when you spend 5 minutes.
No, I know. I love Josh McCown. I think, you know, he he's just a great dude and for the locker room. I think Le'Veon, though, too, because I played with Le'Veon. Le'Veon's a great teammate.
Is he?
Yeah, that dude, like in the locker room, not once does he ever make, he'll talk to anyone. So I feel like him and Sam Darnold will hit it off.
Did this whole thing with financially, did his personality, who Le'Veon is, get misconstrued through all this?
Yeah, it got blown up. I mean, you know how it is. It's a business, and the players are always trying to do what's best for them.
Yep.
And it's just tough. I think he was in a tough position, and I think it got to a point that got further along than he anticipated, and then it got to a point where it's like, you know what? I don't even have to show, and I'm going to become a free agent, so why even risk that? So I think it just got so far down the line that it looked worse than it was. But I think Le'Veon as a teammate, I would not hesitate any day of the week to have him in the locker room, because he's that type of guy. Like, say you had a big charity event coming up, and I'm like, and I hate asking guys for autographs, but yeah, hey, Le'Veon, you mind signing this ball or jersey? Not once would you even be bashful to ask him because he's that kind of dude. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
So that's why I don't, worry too much about him fitting in, but I do worry about the kind of just, the stuff when you're losing games as far as being a head coach in Adam Gase is how do you handle the team and how do you come off to the team to keep them, steady and just keep going. And I think Tomlin did that good for a while in Pittsburgh until some of the drama at the end there.